Welcome to this video, which I hope will help the beginning Java programming student understand the process in writing a simple, when I say simple I mean basic Java program. I'm using this one as an example, and right off the bat, if the video is not sufficient for you, you may want to look at references online or possibly schedule a visit with me as instructor in my office, even though there's a certain amount of independence that you must have when you're having an online class. Otherwise, if you are very high maintenance in terms of a lot of needfulness in a class, you may be better off taking the class seated rather than online. That's just the way it is for a lot of people. They learn differently and better that way. In this particular program, we're going to write a program that contains two methods, and you can see this on the screen hopefully where I'm reading it to you. One method contains information about you, maybe your name, address, phone number, city you were born, something like that. The other method contains information about your personal interests, like you may be interested in music or sports or traveling or something. Let's go through just the process as briefly and as quickly as possible to see what the idea is behind it. When I say write a program, the main thrust behind a Java program is this part, and I'm giving you the layout right here. Hopefully you're seeing this on the screen now. The gist behind a Java program is this part that says public class. I'm going to surround this with my marker. And a Java program starts with the words public and the word class. Don't worry about the details right now, just do what I'm saying. That would be a lot easier. You can name this particular class by using the following rule. You can either use numbers, digits 0 through 9, you can use letters of the alphabet, and you can use the underscore character, no spaces. So for example, I might name this particular program, I might call it, and I hope this will be readable for you. Let me see if this pen will work. I'll call it About Me. Now, that space is not allowed right there. So in order to keep that space from happening, I'm going to put an underscore, not a minus symbol, but an underscore right now. In fact, just to prove my point right here, I'm going to put the number 1 after it. So I'm going to call my program About Me 1. Now, inside that public class program, About Me 1, you must have at least one method. It's just routine. Think of a method as being a chore that you do, maybe Monday chores. You have a list of stuff you do on Monday, a list of chores you do maybe on Tuesday, so the method might be called Tuesday. Something you do at school, you might call it school. You might have a math problem, you might call the method calculate. A method is always named by the same rules, letters, digits, underscore, and you'll always have, with a method, you'll always have parentheses around it. One of the methods that is required in every Java program is one that is called public static void main. With a little string argument. Just copy that literally as it is. Spelling is important. Don't misspell public. Don't spell static without the I. Just don't spell void V-I-O-D. Spelling is critical. And a computer software like Eclipse may give a very cryptic error message when it's just a matter of something being misspelled. For example, if you spell man instead of main. And one thing you need to know about these methods, anything in Java, is that Java is case sensitive. Capital letters and lowercase letters make a difference. So if you had a method or a variable called athlete that starts with a capital A and one that starts with a lowercase a to Java, they are very different. And in each one of those methods, when you give the method heading or title, we call it a heading, the contents of them must be surrounded by braces. And for a lot of people, and I say this kindly, not condescendingly, some people have a dyslexia issue or maybe a visual issue in seeing these braces. Braces must surround the methods. One of the braces, if you will notice, opens up this way, and the other brace opens up the opposite way. This is a left brace and a right brace. Please be sure you don't get those mixed up. So when I'm looking at these methods, like in the case of public static void main, I've got an open left brace and a closing brace. The same thing happens with this method, which I've named information. Notice that the word information has 2 parentheses. Now, parentheses are not the same as braces. They're not curled. And this is an example of a method. And notice how these methods do not overlap each other. So I write them like that. Now, if I wanted to put some information inside that method, and probably a bad pun right here that I'm using, I can do that by using a sentence, just to make this very simplistic, called system.out.println. Println simply means that we're printing out whatever is inside the parentheses. See, that's a method actually, believe it or not, because I have parentheses. And most every sentence, with the exception of these public class shells, as we call them, and the main method shell and the information shell, will end in semicolons. I simply put whatever I want printed inside of quotation marks. For example, I might put in Michael Sisk. And notice that I've got quotes around Michael, quotes around Sisk. The quoted expression is in parentheses, and the whole sentence ends in a semicolon. If I want to add another line to that, I can do that by putting system.out.println. And I might put in here Shelby, North Carolina. Again in quotes, surrounded by parentheses, ending with a semicolon. And that would be an example of a method. The method right here contains information about me. So going back to the instructions, one method contains information about me. One method contains information about me. I'm sorry about the phone call interrupting. One method contains information about me, and the second one, which I'll write in just a moment, will contain information about my personal interests. All right, to do that, to write that second method, I would simply stay inside public class. Now, I'm going to do this kind of incorrectly because of the way this video is working. I apologize for that. But what I want to do is to go inside of main. I want to go outside this green area, and again, just to emphasize this, to hopefully make this just a little bit easier to understand, I'll make this one, please bear with me, I'm getting a lot of interruptions on the outside while I'm trying to create this video, and I apologize for that. I'm going to make this blue, and hopefully it'll be easy to see. I'll name this one public static, and again, Microsoft Word likes to try to capitalize stuff, and that's why it's not a good thing to do, and I'm entering it here just because it makes the video easier to manage. Public static void, and you can name this anything you want to. What I'm going to say, I'm going to call mine interests, and put plural, singular, whatever, and I put the two parentheses. This one does not end with a semicolon because this is the method header or heading. I have to have the open and close brace. You don't have to indent if you don't want to. I do that just for neatness. It makes it a little bit easier to handle. So I'm going to surround those. In fact, in the Eclipse program, which we'll look at in a moment, it will actually do this for you. Now, I'll type in another system.out.println. And again, remember, it's surrounded by, it has parentheses following it and a semicolon. Now, I go inside there, and in quotation marks, I put what I like. So I can put music. I can put as many or as few sentences as I want to. So notice that I now have a method that is in green called information, a method with blue letters, and I've just made it blue just for color coding this particular exercise. And I have main, which is in red. Now notice main is empty. Now if I were to execute this program on the computer, nothing would happen. In fact, what I'm going to do right now, and I hope I do this exactly right, I'm not going to pause the video because many of you have expressed concerns about not being able to see, rather to hear what I've been doing. So I'm going to go in here to Java and make a new class, which is what we call these. Now what will happen when I name this class, I apologize for this, let me get this source folder. I happen to have one right here called Johnson already, and I'll just use this one. And I'll go to File, New Class. If you have trouble creating these in Java, I'll be glad to show you how to do this individually. Now I'm going to call it about_me1, and you'll notice down here, if you want main to already be put in there, it can do that automatically for you. Totally your call. And there's my generated program. I'm going to take out all these comments, and I surely hope you can see this on the screen really well. Alright, so I've got public class about me, public static void main. Now they do something a little differently here. They put their little opening brace on the end of the line, which you are welcome to do. I'm a little particular about that personally. It doesn't matter to Java, it doesn't care. I'm going to put mine like this. Now I'm going to add my other routines that I had, and I hope I've done these correctly. Public static void information. And sometimes it will help me out. Now don't get excited if you see these X's come up and go, oh, something's going to happen. Sometimes these software packages get very excited and they don't give you a chance to type, and they're ready to flag an error immediately. So just be patient with it. Get the whole program in. You already see an X right there because it's worried about matching braces. It's like, computer, give me time to type, and everything will be fine. I'll put system.out.println, and this little IntelliSense will try to help you type it. You can do this if you want to. Now put in Michael Sisk in quotes. Again, just watch your typing very carefully. Most errors early on are simply misspelled words, semicolons, commas, all kinds of, just like English grammar almost, that happen. Now, there's my first method. My second method, these can be put in any order you like. Public static void interests, which I had earlier. Again, the method always has parentheses around it, or beside it rather. System.out.println. Again, the parentheses are there. I'm putting the word music. You can put as many or as few sentences as you like in here. I hope this will help you out. And end it with a semicolon. Alright, now notice, hopefully this is not too small to notice, but I hope you're able to see here that the main class About Me has a brace, and if I can remember how to do this, I'm going to put some line numbers in here for reference purposes. I surely hope I can remember where these are, because sometimes I just forget. I have to go back and do a little cheating here. If I don't find this immediately, then I'm not going to worry about it for right now. You probably will find it quicker than I will. I'm not going to worry about it for right now in the interest of time. But if I execute this program, I'm going to click the Run button. And what's going to happen when I run this, nothing prints out. The reason nothing prints out is that the program is driven by the method called main. And I'll show you an example of this right now, just very quickly. If I were to put in here system.out.println, hello, students. And let's say I execute this program by running it. You may not see this at the bottom of the screen. Hopefully you can. But at the bottom of the screen it says hello, students. That's the only thing inside of main that prints it out. Well, rather than duplicate Michael Sisk, I could very well type in system.out.println music, but that basically duplicates what I've done down here in the method called interest. So instead of typing in system.out.println.music, I'll simply tell the computer to do whatever is in that method. And I do that by typing the word interest, which is the name of that method, and I put a semicolon after it. I'm going to show you this back in my Word document to let you know how this works. What I do here, in order for the blue method called interest to execute, I simply type in the word interests. It's got to be an exact match of this name right here, capital letter and then lowercase, capital I and all that. The difference is I've got to put a semicolon after this because this is a statement inside the main method. This is just a heading right here where it says public static void interest, and that's why I don't have to put a semicolon after it. So what will happen when I put interest right here, you're telling the computer, sort of like in a TV program, you're saying go to a commercial break, and this commercial is about interests. When it plays that commercial, when it does that method, it returns back, just like a TV program after a commercial, it returns where it left off. Now what's upsetting it about this program right here, and I'm going to run it to prove my point, it's going to give me an error message. The reason for the error being there, and you might have some real cryptic stuff that happens, you may not be understanding it, but it tries to point to the sentence. It's got the word interest, where the method is called interests with an S, so the spelling has to be exact. So I'll put an S right there. Now when I run this program, what the computer does is it prints the word hello students, then it does the part that says interests, and when it goes down to interests, it does what's inside that method, which is the word music. So it prints hello students followed by the word music. If I wanted to print the stuff that's in information, what do you think I do? Hopefully you know the answer. I type the name of that method, information, followed by the two parentheses and a semicolon. Now, what you need to understand perfectly right here is the program will execute the sentences not in the order that I typed it, but in the order that the methods are called. For example, if you look at it right now, the natural thing would be, well, let's go straight down the list because I'm bound and determined to do it my way. You think it's going to print hello students, then it will print Michael Sisk, then it will print Shelby, then it will print music. Well, because, Mr. Sisk, that's the way I typed it, but it's not the way Java works. Java is driven by however the methods are written inside of main. Main is the boss. Main is in charge. What main does when this program runs, it goes to main immediately. It prints out the first sentence, which says hello students. It then has what's called a method call. It calls up interests, goes down to interest, does this stuff. So it prints music first. It returns to main where it left off. It says call up information. It goes down here to information, prints that business, goes back to main. There's nothing there. I'm going to type in one more sentence just to prove my point. Show you what happens. Again, each of these sentences ends with a semicolon. What do you think happens here? When I run this program, if there are no mistakes, hopefully you can see the bottom of the screen. But what it will print out, and just in case you can't see this, I'll try to type this down here at the bottom of the screen on my word screen. I'll see if I can get this to work out. It's going to print out, first of all, it will print out hello students, followed by music, because it calls up the interests method next. The next thing it does, it calls up the information method, which types out Michael Sisk, Shelby, North Carolina. It goes back to main, and it does that sentence that says goodbye. So the execution that it prints out is in this particular order, and I hope I can work this out where you can. Now, sometimes Word will fill up the whole screen, and I was afraid that would happen. Let me see if I can skinny this up a little bit where it will be a little bit easier to see this and the program at the same time. Again, Windows wants to help me out. And let me see if this works. There's your output right there. Now this is exactly what the computer will print out. It does the very first thing right here, which says hello students inside of main. It then calls up interests, which prints out the phrase music. It goes back up to main, prints out information, or rather it goes to the information method, prints out Michael Sisk and Shelby, North Carolina, goes back to main and prints out goodbye. Hopefully this will give you an idea of how a Java program basically works. Again, looking at the directions from the original exercise, it said to write a program that contains two methods. One method contains information about you, the other contains information about your personal needs. So I'm asking for two methods. What are the two methods? Information and interest. You can name them anything you want to. You can name them salt and pepper if you want to do that. You must have the main method, public static void main string, and the brackets and args. That's required. You must have a title for your class, which is what a Java program does. That class name must have letters or digits or an underscore. It has to start with a letter. It can't start with underscore, can't start with a number. I hope this will give you some basic information about writing your first Java programs, and if you have further needs, then talk with another student or contact me personally.